Okay, merry meet, my friends. I'm Kevin. I'll be your service advisor today. I guess that's associate. I don't need to advise anybody. So we got lots of announcements, so we can jump right into them now. Our auction donations. Spring auction is coming April 20th. Need donations of goods, services, and events. Deadline is March 18th. You can get the forms in the lobby or in the office, turn them in. Roundtables returning. Today is the first day. It'll be after church service in the sanctuary and on Zoom, 11:45 to 12:45, except for St. Patrick's Day. We will not be doing a roundtable that day. They didn't tell me or Easter. Thank you. Today it will be Profits Over People. We're going to review the New Mexico legislative session with Senator Bob Scholz and Representative Joanne Ferrari. They'll tell us about bills that were passed as well as some that failed to make it to the governor's desk and how that will affect us here in New Mexico. Now the Pacific Western Regional Assembly will be in Denver on the 19th and 20th. If you want to go to that, you can go on the 19th, but be sure to be back on the 20th for the auction. They should really consult us before they do their scheduling. Tombaugh Gallery shows the artwork of Carrie Greer and Karen Zebriff, opens Sunday today, while the reception continues through Sunday, March 24th. UU Crafters meet the second Saturday of each month at 1 o'clock in the church library. They still have lots of great beading supplies from Jillian. Contact Carol Stanfill or Sarah Thomas for more information. And the Peace Village returns to UUCLC this summer. Our mission is to teach the messages and practices of nonviolence and peacemaking from various world traditions in a fun and cooperative atmosphere. Peace Village relies on volunteers for the camp to succeed. You can get involved by volunteering at the camp, donating, advocating, teaching, or sharing an enrichment activity. For more information or to get involved, you can contact Svea Peterson. Email is on the announcements there, or Sandra Barmacue. Okay, please join us for the Changed for Change selection meeting on March 17th after the Sunday service. I guess that's why we're preempting the roundtable that day. Social Justice invites members and friends of UUCLC to join a special hybrid meeting. We'll be both on Zoom and in person, Sunday, March 17th, 11:30 a.m., and we're going to select the 4 charities which will receive our Change for Change for the next 4 quarters. 4 local charitable organizations will be selected. In the selection meeting, advocates for nominated charities will make a brief 5-minute presentations. Those attending in the sanctuary will vote by paper ballot, while those attending over Zoom will vote via the chat feature. A member or friend who is unable to participate in the Zoom meeting may request an absentee ballot by email to Dave Rice. His address is here in the announcements. And at 11:30, sandwiches and water will be available for those who attend the Change for Change voting. The new UU classes will be held in the church library starting today through the rest of the month, every Sunday after service, 11:30 to 1:30. Bring your own brown bag lunch because they're not going to give you sandwiches at that one. So, does everybody know what today is? Today is National Anthem Day. The United States didn't have an officially declared anthem until the congressional resolution signed by President Herbert Hoover on March 3, 1931, designated the Star-Spangled Banner as the national anthem of the United States. There are several other delightful designations for today. Today is National I Want You to Be Happy Day. It encourages us to do something that makes others happy. It also asks us to see someone's happiness from their point of view. Putting a smile on someone's face tends to put one on ours as well. So call them lunch meats, deli meats, sandwich meats, or cold cuts. However you like them, National Cold Cuts Day was made for sandwich and snack makers. And National Soup It Forward Day is on March 3rd. It encourages us to deliver love and kindness by the bowl full. We all know a worn cup of kindness comes in many forms and flavors. I guess that means that after church today, we should stop by the deli for a stack of fresh sliced cold cuts, go home, make a hot cup of soup, and make someone happy by delivering soup and sandwiches while humming the Star-Spangled Banner.
I don't know. I don't know if I can top that at all. That's great. Will you rise and bow to your spirit and join me in singing our gathering song, 389, Gathered Here. And we're going to do it this way. Rich is going to play it all the way through first, and then as you're getting up, and then we're going to sing it through twice in unison, and then we're going to try to sing it in, what do they call it, a round, okay? Yeah, that should be interesting. No, I'll designate that in a minute. Okay, Rich? Okay, here's how we're going to do it. We're going to divide the audience. These two groups are going to sing at the first round, okay? And then this group and the folks who are behind me in the choir are going to sing it on the second round, okay? You ready? That was pretty good. All right, thank you.
Especially with no rehearsal. Okay. Okay, good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. We welcome those of you who are in our sanctuary this morning, especially the children, and those who are joining us via streaming technology. Our service leader is Charlie Scholz. Our absent director of music is Catherine Massey. Kelly Ingram is our director of religious education. Assisting us are Elwin Nunn on camera, Claire Neal Wallace on audio, and Mike Yazko created all these wonderful slides for us and monitors our streaming technology. Our greeters today are Steve Hitchka, Carol Stanville, and Laura Jones. And look at this beautiful chalice table. Our thanks to Jillian Lang and Diane Lee for this lovely presentation. And hospitality is offered today by, anybody know? Seekers, thank you. We are all delighted to be with you today. Unitarian Universalism has no creed or dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agree to live in relationship with each other according to the Unitarian list principles, and our congregation's covenant of right relations. We embrace diversity in all its forms. Everyone is welcome. You can learn more about our church at our website, UUCLC.org. Remember to put the church in there. If you just put C, you get something out of California. So if you're visiting today, we'd like to meet you. If you're in the sanctuary, please rise in body or spirit and introduce yourself by telling us your name and where you're from. But wait, let me bring the mic to you so everybody can hear you. So do we have any visitors in the sanctuary this morning? Yay. Hi there.
We're Chuck and Karen West. We lived here for 7 or 8, 10 years, I don't know, and moved away, and we come back once in a while to see our friends.
Well, welcome back. Any other visitors today? Hi there.
Hi, I'm May, and this is Luna, and we're here for the first time. There you go.
Any other visitors with us today? Oh, okay. Okay, if you're on YouTube, you can write us a note in the comments or drop by the website, fill out a contact form. Do we have any YouTube visitors today? No? Okay, thank you. Very pleased that you joined us for the service. Please fill out a visitor's card in the lobby or leave your email in the contact form on the website so we can invite you to other services and activities here at the church. And please join us for the services after the service for snacks, coffee, and conversation down the breezeway here at the RE building. We'd love to see you, and there's certainly some nice treats there. And Charlie?
I always notice when people are standing in the back looking for a place to sit, we have a rule here that is if you come early, you can get a good back seat. These words are from Catherine McTeague. We come together this morning to remind one another to rest for a moment on the foaming edge of our lives, to resist the headlong tumble into the next moment, until we claim for ourselves awareness and gratitude, taking the time to look into one another's face and see their communion, the reflection of our own eyes. This house of laughter and silence, of memory and hope, is hallowed by our presence together.
And now we're going to do our chalice lighting. Here today, in this place, with these people, may we listen so that we can hear. May we hear so that we can feel. May we feel so that we can know. And may we know so that we can change ourselves and this world. May this chalice we light our way. Now, if you'll please rise in body or spirit and join me in saying the church's affirmation of covenant and in singing the doxology in English and Spanish. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Normally at this time, we have a time for all ages, and that's usually done by our Director of Religious Education, Kelly Ingram. Kelly is not with us this morning because her grandfather died. And so what I'd like you to do is keep her in your thoughts and prayers, and I think what we'll do is have a minute of silence for her. Hymn is number 355, We Lift Our Hearts in Thanks. Would you please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing? We lift our hearts in thanks today for all the gifts of life, and first for peace that turns away the enemies of strife, and next the beauty of the earth in flowers and lovely things. You may be seated.
Ways we support one another in community is through the sharing of joys, sorrows, and milestones. In these challenging times, it is crucial that we make attempts to stay connected to one another. So if you have a joy, sorrow, or milestone you would like to share with the congregation this morning, please raise your hand and I'll bring the mic to you. State your name and what's in your heart. Are there any joys, sorrows, or milestones this morning?
I had a collision with my cat earlier this week, and she won. And I've experienced a compression fracture of the tibia, so I can't put any weight on my left leg. And that's the reason for the walker. And so that's kind of the sorrow, although I've learned a lot from all of this. But my great joy is that my son has taken time away from his store for the first time in a year. And he got me here, and I haven't had this much time with him in over a year, and I'm just delighted that it took this to make him do that. and to trust that other people could run the store for him. But I hope you'll warmly greet Dulce, also known as Jose, but I call him Dulce. So.
Good morning, I'm Dave Steele. I have a joy I'd like to share with you all. As many of you know, but I've also been told many of you don't know, our church has, as part of the Unitarian Universalist Animal Ministry, and we have a chapter here, and we have an animal advocates group that has been in existence as part of the Social Justice Committee for a number of years. And one of our initiatives is Cans for Critters, and I've also been told that some people are not aware of what Cans for Critters is. We collect aluminum cans and reclimate them, and this year, after over a 10-year period, we finally reached the $20,000 mark. And each and every penny of that money goes to either local shelters or rescue groups, or to individuals who are having a hard time meeting the needs of their beloved animals because of financial difficulties or veterinary expenses. And so this congregation and Good Sam, through our congregation and connections through our congregation are the largest donators of your aluminum cans. And so we all deserve a round of applause for what we're doing in terms of expanding the circle of compassion by helping people with their beloved animals. Thank you.
I'm Karuna Richard Warren and my wife Marie. Last week we saw over 700 kids for Dr. Zeus's birthday. And this is about our 15th year doing it. And it was really a great joy at El Paso Community College. So I just want to say it was a good joy to see so many kids.
Dave? Where do they leave the cans?
Library. Big band in there.
You can call Dave.
Or I'll come pick them up. Yeah.
I'm Ed Long, and I had open heart surgery about a month ago. And I want to thank people who visited me in the hospital, and the cards and emails and phone calls I've gotten from many of you, and I really appreciate it. But I'm just darn glad to be here.
How are we doing? Anybody else have joys, sorrows, or milestones they'd like? Oh, you're hiding from me, huh?
I thought I'd throw one out for Laura Jones. Katie stepped in for Laura Jones, who had volunteered to be a greeter. She's home for an indefinite amount of time, taking care of her mother who's having failing health. She's back in Arkansas, and she'll be back eventually.
Thank you. Anyone else? Joys and sorrows expressed today. And those you hold in your hearts, we all hold hopes and dreams, wounds and worries in our hearts. Remembering this, let us treat one another with patience and love.
Our meditation this morning is a simple one. Let us open our minds and hearts to the place of quiet, to the silent prayer for the healing of pain and the soft, gentle coming of love. Let us be in silence for a moment.
Today's reading is called To Live Deliberately, and is by Henry David Thoreau. Why should we live in such a hurry and waste of life? We are determined to be starved before we are hungry. I wish to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life. I wish to learn what life has to teach and not, when I come to die, discover that I have not lived. I do not wish to live what is not life. Living is so dear. Nor do I wish to practice resignation unless it is quite necessary. I wish to live deep and suck out all the marrow of life. I want to cut a broad swath, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms. If it proves to be mean, then to get the whole and genuine meanness of it and publish its meanness to the world. Or, if it is sublime, to know it by experience and to be able to give a true account of it.
When I finished writing this sermon this morning, I thought that I should have titled it Lucretius and the Quest for Truth. But then I realized that would be too much like an Indiana Jones movie, and since it doesn't involve Nazis or relics or aliens, you might have been misled. Nevertheless, the title is important because it sets the tone for the entire piece, and calling it Lucretius and the Nature of Things and the Search for Truth, I think is an accurate description. So, here we go. Speaking about Lucretius, a Roman poet who lived more than 2,000 years ago, does sound like a history lesson. Well, I think of myself as a historian. However, my field of expertise is more in technology than political history, for instance. I know a lot about the Industrial Revolution. I know all about the origins of transportation systems. I can tell you why the interstate highway system caused the decline of small towns and why flush riveting is necessary on airplanes because of speed. Okay? I read a lot of history and biography, needless to say. But every once in a while, I run across an interesting history or biography that looks at the pre-industrial era, the Middle Ages. It's a book by Stephen Greenblatt that I read recently. It's called The Swerve, and it's up there on the screen for you. The subtitle of that book is How the World Became Modern, and we'll get into that in a few minutes. It's an account of an Italian manuscript hunter of the early 15th century who found a copy of Lucretius' famous poem on the nature of things in a rural German monastery in 1417. The manuscript hunter's name was Poggio Bracciolini. I think I have that correct. I'm not strong in Italian, but he was a Latin scholar, an ardent searcher of antiquities, and a former secretary, are you ready for this, to Pope John the 23rd, the first Pope John the 23rd, who was later defrocked and thrown into prison. Okay? He was also, Bracciolini was a scribe, one who was reputed to have a beautiful hand. Now you have to remember at this time in Western society, before the invention of the printing press, all copying and writing was done by hand. Bracciolini was one of a number of Italian men who were fascinated with ancient history, particularly the Roman Empire. These people collected artifacts like marble busts and copies of manuscripts that were originally written before the fall of Rome and the general decline of civilization. Most of the surviving manuscripts that they looked for had been copied by monks and were stored in monastery libraries. Bracciolini's most famous discovery, of course, was Lucretius' 750-word poem on the nature of things. Today we would probably call it an essay, and it is available online if you'd like to read it. Titus Lucretius Carus lived from about 99 BCE, that's before the Common Era, to around 55 BCE. He was a poet and philosopher, but very little else is known about him because we don't have much of a biography and we don't have any other of his writings. However, we do know that, or we think he was a well-educated person because he wrote beautiful Latin, and he probably came from a wealthy family because he seemed to be well-educated. There are complementary references to him by Virgil, the Roman poet, and by Cicero, the Roman orator. In his only surviving work, and I'm going to try my Latin here, De Rerum Natura, usually translated On the Nature of Things, Lucretius demonstrates an advanced knowledge of science. For example, he says that all material things are created of atoms. He calls them invisible elementary particles of indestructible matter, infinite in number. And he says that these elementary particles are in constant motion. That's pretty advanced for 2,000 years ago, isn't it? He notes that the universe has no designer or creator. Everything in the material world comes into being because of a swerve. And by a swerve, he means a change in direction, an adaptation, mutation, okay, something different. And 1800 years before Darwin, Lucretius believed that nature was ceaselessly experimenting. Wow. But my interest this morning in him is not in his scientific thought, though I think it's very impressive. What I am interested in is Lucretius' philosophy and how it becomes a basis for our humanist beliefs. For example, he believed that the universe was not created for humans and that humans were not unique in the universe. He also thought there was no afterlife. So when the soul dies, that's it. He suggests then that death should not be anything to us. We shouldn't worry about it. After all material things are made of atoms. These indestructible particles will be recreated again through the swerve. The idea that everyone dies, though, does remind me of a scene in an obscure Harrison Ford police drama entitled Hollywood Homicide. Anyone had ever seen that? That's what, oh, someone has, good. It's his partner in this is Josh Hartnett, and he plays a Zen Buddhist, and he's commandeering a car with little children in it to chase after a crook. And so as he's racing along, the children who are belted in the back seat are asking him, "Are we going to die?" And he turns around and says, "Of course, all of us will die eventually." Not very reassuring to the children on board, obviously. Great reference. Anyway, Lucretius was also convinced, you ready for this? All organized religions are superstitious delusions. Now, remember, he's pre-Christian, right? This is before Christianity was established as a state religion, for instance. But that was his belief. And he also thought that the swerve that he talked about, where new things are created and so on, was a source of free will. That's interesting. In addition, he thought that the highest goal of human life is the enhancement of pleasure and the reduction of pain. An obvious precursor to Hosea Ballou, who said that God wants us to be happy. And certainly an influence on John Lennon, who wrote, "Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today." The greatest obstacle to pleasure, Lucretius says, is not pain, it's delusion. Now, if you think this was a radical idea in pre-Christian times, think of what it means today when you consider the Puritan ethic, still really a part of our culture, which suggests that indulging in pleasure is bad and pain and suffering are a natural part of our existence and therefore should be accepted. Okay, finally, Lucretius says, understanding the nature of things develops deep wonder. Now, I'm not a particularly introspective person. Philosophically, I'm not a deep thinker. So it took me a while to recognize and articulate what I consider my search for truth. But what Lucretius is saying to me is that the search for truth, that is, understanding the nature of things, is a goal we should all seek. When I was a kid, I was interested in everything, in how things worked, how things were made, why things were being done as they were being done. I asked a lot of questions. I read everything I could get my hands on. My particular passion was collecting knowledge and figuring out its connections and interrelationships. Now, the accumulation of knowledge is good for trivia contests and working the New York Times crossword. But what I discovered is that this also trained me to do research. But what I didn't know at the time was that I was searching for the truth. And although we cannot positively know the motives that drove Poggio Braccolini to search for ancient texts, what he was doing was also searching for the truth. He and his fellow humanists, as they called themselves, were passionate about going back to the sources of ancient wisdom because they wanted to know the truth of what those people believed. And so it's interesting that Braccolini happened upon this Lucretius manuscript, The Nature of Things, because this was also Lucretius' search for truth. In that 7,500-word poem, he gives us his views on science, philosophy, theology, the world as he perceived it. So, one passionate truth seeker discovered and shared the words of another passionate truth seeker, which has made a lasting impression on the modern world. If that had not happened, if Braccolini had not shown any interest in searching for the truth, it is possible that the ideas expressed by Lucretius in this poem might have eventually been thought of by other people during the Renaissance. But the fact that this poem was brought to light in the early 15th century certainly played a part in energizing that movement. But Braccolini's passion for collecting and transcribing antique manuscripts is not just important for his discovery of Lucretius' work, which we know has been a strong influence on Western thought. It's important to us today because it's an example of someone who was passionate about seeking the truth. Why is this search for truth so important to us? Well, for one reason, it's part of our covenant, the one we said earlier today. You remember, the quest for truth is our sacrament and service is our prayer. If you think back on it, we say love is the doctrine of this church, and that means that love is the foundation of our belief system. And then we say the quest for truth is our sacrament, and that means for us that the search for truth is sacred. So my question to you today is, Did you come here in search of truth? One final note. The title of this book about Braccolini and his discovery of Lucretius is called The Swerve. By calling this movement the swerve, Lucretius meant that things are constantly changing, rearranging, adapting, mutating. And because of this, we must continue to seek the truth. May it be so. Will you join me in singing this song? Hold on just a moment. Would you join me in singing this song? The words are on the screen. What gifts can we bring?
The operation and outreach of our church needs your input and your contributions. This is the perfect time to think about what you can give back. In a moment, the greeters will pass among you with the offering baskets. Please give generously. But before they do that, I should remind you that we support organizations identified by the Social Justice Committee with our Change for Change program. This quarter's recipient of our Change for Change donations is Casa de Peregrino, providing food, assistance, and hope to many in our community. You can give to them by putting your change in the basket or writing Change for Change on the note line of your check. Please give generously.
I want to thank Rich Richards for piano today. We forgot to mention him in the introduction. Always a pleasure, Rich. Would you rise as you're willing and able and join me in singing 1058, Ours Be a Religion. The words will be on the screen, and we'll sing through it twice. Our closing words are from W.E.B. Du Bois. Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time, now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime.
Please join me in saying the words to extinguish the flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.